All right, today we are diving into something truly mind-bending. It's a speculative story called the Discontinuity Archive. And trust me, it starts with a simple mathematical puzzle and ends up questioning, well, everything.
And the story kicks off with this incredible line, but this isn't about the emotional beauty of math. It's about something much, much stranger. The author had this overwhelming feeling that they hadn't discovered the proof, but that they had somehow remembered it.
And this one feeling, it spirals into the central question of the entire investigation. What if our greatest moments of genius aren't new at all? What if they're echoes, memories from a life you never actually lived? This is the exact mystery a small group of researchers decided they had to solve.
Yeah, this wasn't just some philosophical thought experiment. It turned out to be a real, documented phenomenon that people were experiencing. It needed a name, and it definitely needed an explanation.
So they gave it a name, a prior experience. Now these weren't just fuzzy feelings of déjà vu, and this is the key. People were suddenly recalling complete, totally verifiable, and sometimes brand new mathematical proofs just appearing fully formed in their heads.
So this team gets together and forms the Discontinuity Archive just to track all these bizarre events. And they found a pattern. It was rare, about 1 in every 10,000 mathematicians, but it was consistent. And here's the kicker. The math was always right, and they could prove these weren't just forgotten memories from this life. Something else was happening here.
Okay, so this is where things start getting really, really weird. As the archive dug deeper, they found a bizarre pattern in the timing of these events, and it pointed to an explanation that was stranger than anyone could have imagined.
Get this, the timing of these prior experiences was somehow linked to the frequency of a number called omega. Now, omega is this almost mythical number in math. It's fundamentally unknowable, uncomputable. It literally represents the edge of what we can know. This was the first huge clue that these memories weren't coming from the past, but from the very structure of possibility itself.
And this bizarre connection leads one of the researchers, a Dr. Elena Vasquez, to this just mind-blowing hypothesis. She asks, what if these aren't memories at all? What if they are observations, glimpses into parallel worlds where another version of you already figured it out?
And this idea becomes the theory of interception. The theory goes like this. All possible proofs already exist out there in this abstract possibility space. When a mathematician is really deep in concentration, their mind can kind of resonate with that space and literally pull in or intercept a proof from another possible timeline. And just when they thought they were getting a handle on it, things escalate. Big time. The interceptions started to include more than just math. They became vivid, personal memories from these alternate lives. Full conversations with colleagues who didn't exist here, remembering choices they never made, and even chillingly clear memories of their own deaths in those other worlds.
And this, right here, is the moment the story pivots. It goes from a fascinating scientific puzzle to something absolutely terrifying, because the researchers uncovered a horrifying secret about the very structure of the multiverse. What they found was that the multiverse isn't some big, happy family of coexisting timelines. Oh no, it's a brutal, zero-sum game for the simple right to exist.
This led them to this absolutely bone-chilling conclusion. Reality isn't a garden, it's a battlefield. And the very act of you living your life, of making choices, solidifying your own timeline, was, in effect, murdering all the other possible timelines where you might have chosen differently.
They called this horrifying process the cascade. Think of reality, or probability, as a limited resource, like energy. For our world to become more solid, more real, it has to literally steal that reality from other potential worlds, causing them to flicker out of existence.
And the most tragic part, the most gut-wrenching irony, the archive team, they started it by accident. In an attempt to see deeper into these other worlds, their experiments destabilized the most stable, most probable reality, which they called Timeline Alpha. When Alpha collapsed, it created a vacuum, a domino effect, kicking off a full-blown multiversal war for existence.
So now humanity is faced with this impossible knowledge. The very act of living is an act of destruction. What do you do with that? Society, as you can imagine, completely fractured, splitting into groups with radically different answers. Basically, 3 main factions popped up. First, you had the sovereigntists. Their view was simple, us or them.
They wanted to win the war by actively attacking other timelines and stealing their reality. Then you had the preservationists, who tried to become cosmic managers, trying to control the cascade by choosing which worlds to sacrifice to save others. And finally, there were the quietists. They believed the only moral path was to essentially commit a slow-motion suicide, to voluntarily reduce our own reality to let others live.
But in the middle of all this conflict, this war for reality itself, a completely different idea starts to take shape. A fourth path. It wasn't about winning or losing or managing the war. It was about changing the fundamental rules of the game itself.
This was something else entirely. It was a way to step outside of that violent competition altogether. And the way to do it was by transforming our very understanding of what it means to be conscious.
And the absolute core of this new path was a shift from a state of being to a state of becoming. See, being is fixed, it's singular. Its goal is just to exist, and it has to compete to do that. Becoming, on the other hand, is fluid. It's about potential. The goal isn't to be the one true reality, but to explore all possibilities without forcing a single one to win.
And this all leads to the ultimate endgame, this incredible concept called the meta-timeline. This is a state of consciousness that is aware of itself not as a single point, but as the entire structure of its own probability. Instead of collapsing into just one reality, it learns to hold all of its potential selves in a kind of perfect, stable superposition. It ends the war by simply refusing to fight.
And that leaves us with the manuscript's final, beautiful, haunting question. Maybe the point of it all was never to find a single final answer for what reality is. Maybe the true purpose of consciousness is to learn how to live inside the infinite, beautiful, uncertain question of what it could become.